to see you all here tonight. And just what about a big round of applause for actually fucking finding the place. Truly. It's a triumph. I wonder how many of you can remember the first time that you heard Vika and Linda sing. Where were you, do you think? Over here. Where were you?
In my bedroom.
In your bedroom. How old were you? About 15. About 15? In your bedroom. What were you singing into your hairbrush, do you think?
Grandpa's.
The Grandpa's song. The Grandpa's song, so beautiful.
Thank you.
I can remember singing, you know, When Will You Fall For Me? You know, I remember that, you know, but it wasn't so much I was singing it, I actually had etched it into a wall with a knife. Anyone else can remember when they first heard the girls sing? We were, oh yes, down here. Put your pie down, my friend. We've got all night.
Sorry about that, Chief. As backing on Never Let Me Go.
I'm backing on Never Let Me Go.
I think I prefer the backing to the rest.
You like the backing better than, yeah, I can hear you. Better than the record itself, yeah, I can hear you. Anyone else? Just one more maybe over here? What was that? You have to speak up a little? You were listening to it when you were 4. Is that your mum?
Thank you.
Because you just flogged it and she just had to put up with it. Is that the way it goes? Oh, well, fantastic. So I think that we can say, for most of us, that these gals have been with us for a very good, long part of our lives, correct?
Too long.
Correct. Too long.
And they are, for many of us, a real soundtrack to our lives. I did love the dedication that you have here on the front of the book from Julia Zamiro. A beautiful book, 2 voices, 2 sisters, and at the centre, always music. Now, I'm really, really fascinated with this book that you girls have come up with, because it's one of the very few times that I have read a biography, a memoir, I should say, of siblings, 2 sisters. Now, I'm writing my own, memoir, Jesus help me, and I hate myself, and I'm completely always ringing people up going, what was I doing then? They go, we can't remember. And I can't either. But you two, and this is the most extraordinary thing about this memoir, you are witness to each other all along the way. So it's quite wonderful to read a book that isn't all me. It's more her, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So can you, before we get into what you talk about, let's talk about the craft of this book. And I'll ask you first, Linda, who approached you to write this book and how did you go about it?
Firstly, hello everybody and thank you for coming. We're very happy. This is our first time we've done this, so we're very happy to be here with Wendy and with you. We feel like we're in very safe hands. So we go back a long way with Wendy. I don't know if you know that. You'll probably hear that along.
You will.
Along the night. Vika and I were approached by Affirm Press. We were, if you're familiar with ABC Breakfast Radio, John Fane, his show was a regular in Melbourne for many, many years, and when he retired, he invited Vika and I to come along and sing a song. So we thought we'd go and sing for John, not knowing that he actually pulled us onto the front of the stage and plonked us right down, pretty much like this, for a very important event to mark the end of his career. And in the audience was one of the heads of Affirm Press, and he thought, well, they might tell an interesting story. And he approached Vika and I not long after that and said, would you be interested in writing your story? You don't have to include music. You can I just want to know how you got how two girls navigated their way together through the career that they've had to the stage. You don't have to talk about music, you can stop there. And that is how it started. We were very reluctant, actually.
I remember I had a little bit of a chat with you girls just before this, and your writing, the way you wrote this book just completely blew my mind. Because when I read this book, and it is adorable, by the way, it is funny, it is revelatory, it is honest, and it is just, it takes you down memory lane. But the thing that blew my mind was the way this book is structured. See, what happens in the book is Linda and Vika both take an incident from their lives, a moment from their lives, and they write it in parallel about what they both thought about the same event. Now, I don't know about you, but my brother and my two brothers and my sister would write such a vastly different account of family events. Yeah. You can think about that. The Christmas where, I don't know, Grandpa fell into the swimming pool. There'd probably be one kid that wrote, well, he fell in by himself. The other one said, well, he was pushed in. The other one said, whatever. But that doesn't happen in this book. Now tell me, Vika, and I was blown away by this, how you put this book together. You put it together in isolation.
Yes.
How did it happen?
Well, we were a little lost in the beginning. We basically just started writing. Mm-hmm. We got some very good advice from some great people like Joanna Murray-Smith and our publishers, and they said, just write, don't correct yourself, just write. And so we started doing that. And it was really weird because we didn't discuss it at all. We didn't talk about what we were going to write about, but we wrote about the same thing. I wrote about this. What did you write about, Linda? She goes, I wrote about the same thing. And we're like, oh, okay. And we didn't, it wasn't planned. That's how it started. And which I thought was a bit spooky. It's like we're twins almost. Mm. And then kind of stalled a little bit. I found it a little difficult writing the book. I was very reluctant. But it was interesting, I found, when we did write, that we were writing about similar things. But then when we started getting into it a bit more, it was like, okay, we should have topics that we
should stick to.
Otherwise, because I ran, honestly, I was like, I thought, we've got a pretty average, boring life, really. Yeah. It's nothing really, it's just like everyone else. When we grew, well, that's what I thought.
Well, our upbringing was unremarkable to us because we grew up in suburban Doncaster and our parents were very, had 9-to-5 jobs. They mixed race. That's different. But
you are now traversing every single question that I want to ask.
Sorry, Wendy.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well,
let's just stick with the writing process to begin. But we'll get to all that. No, I don't mean to be rude, but we'll get to all that. But what just blows my mind is that here were you two saying, "Oh, could you write a book together?" You were in one place, you're in another, and you are writing in harmony. I mean, what an extraordinary sort of metaphor. But you were, weren't you?
Yes, we were. It was
uncanny. It was weird.
Yeah. We don't know why that. We don't know why. It's just. I think it's just because connection.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to what we call blood harmony a little later on, and that is going to take us down a very interesting path. But let's talk about you two gals. And we can't go anywhere without talking about your extraordinary parents, and who they're both with us still. They're in their 80s, late 80s.
That's right. They're 88 and 87. Mum's the older one. She married a younger man, and they're still together.
But we can't go anywhere without talking about the way they got together in those early years, the racism that they faced as a mixed couple, and also the gifts of culture that they brought you. So let's start with you, Linda. Tell us about your mum and dad.
Oh, they're lovely people, Wendy, and they're very down-to-earth, hard-working people. And Mum is Tongan and Dad is Australian, and they're very opposite too, personality-wise. Mum is a very dominant boss lady, and Dad is a nature-loving, cord-wearing, elastic-sided boot. Greenie.
He's a greenie, tree hugger.
Mum's more of a career woman, and Dad's more of a laid-back dude, and I think it says a lot about Vika and I.
So Cinevina and Aussie, would you believe, Bull.
Aussie Bull, yeah.
Where did they meet?
They met at the Sandringham Yacht Club in 1965, and Mum went along. It was like a blind date, but not with Dad. She was there with another guy who ended up just abandoning Mum at the party and went off somewhere and left Mum on her own. And Dad saw this exotic, beautiful woman and could see that she was kind of lost and all at sea, so he offered to drive her home. And they have not been apart since.
Wow. Their story, I'll tell you what, you can just stand aside, the both of you, because this story is a love story of these extraordinary people. And they, of course, faced a lot of racism in the early days, didn't they, as a mixed couple?
Yeah, Mum came out in the middle of the White Australia policy in Australia as a nursing student, and so she had to get special permission to enter the country. And when, those sorts of unions were not common. And they stood out like sore thumbs, basically, and Mum went through a lot in her job and in public. Just
Tell us about their jobs. What were they doing?
But Mum is a nurse and sort of rose through the ranks in the private sector to become quite high up in that area. But she's a very caring nurse, and Dad was the stock inspector for the Department of Agriculture.
Wow. Okay.
So he worked with cows, and she worked with people.
And tell us about when you two came along in their lives.
Very soon after they got married. So we did actually figure it out. They got married, they met in 65, they got married in August 65. I came along in March 66. I'm like, hang on, Mum, you were pregnant when you got married? No, I wasn't, because she's very sort of, but she was. But,
Oh, really?
pardon?
Okay. Yeah.
She was.
All right.
She had to have
All
been.
right. If she was here, I don't know what she'd say. She comes over in the book as the most extraordinary woman, so fierce, so strong, so full of family, and your dad is so embracing of her Tongan culture. They are really an extraordinary couple.
They are. They're very extraordinary. Mum actually, she's not so... what did she say to you, Linda? She said, I don't come across as like a very fun person.
I come across as very strict and very bossy, and we just went,
You are.
yes, because you are. And she said, your dad comes across a lot more, not nicer than me. We just, okay.
But so there you are, the two gals, and you say in the book, you talk about this a lot in the beginning, about how you are chalk and cheese. So let's, start with that, and let's, who was first, who's the chalk and who's the cheese? Vika.
Well, I'm the eldest. I'm 17 months older than Linda. Hang on, what's chalk? Is that like...
Oh, I think they're interchangeable, quite frankly. Don't worry about it.
Okay, well, I am the...
Just different.
Very different to Linda. I'm wild and very sort of don't think things through, just act before I think. Basically a bit of an idiot. And that's how... No, honestly, that's how I was growing up. And, I gave Mum and Dad hell. So that's me. And Linda,
Well, I guess, yeah, if you had a wild kid, I was the more gentle, quiet one in the family. And Vika's impetuous, I'm a bit more patient. She is, a really great driver. I'm really shit. And she can, I used to like spending time inside and drawing because I was an outdoorsy sort of girl. She sings high, I sing low. We're very different in every aspect. She's impetuous, I'm detail driven. I read and I dot every I and cross every T, and she just sign a contract, that kind of thing. Right, yeah.
yeah.
So I'm going to jump at you. I've got lots to talk to you about, your child and everything, but I'm going to actually jump a little bit ahead here and ask you, how does your difference in personality, I'm this, she's that, I'm it, how does that inform your ability to make harmony?
That's a good question. I'll let you answer that one, Vic, because I think you understand that.
Okay, well, because we're different, and because I think you need that kind of, it's like you need the soft and you need the hard, to have the nice, just right middle sort of thing. That's us. I'm one extreme, she's the other, but when we sing, it comes together, it works for some reason.
Yeah, she's got that punch, and
Yeah.
I've got the more mellow bit, so in between we have that sound that comes together that makes the sound we're aiming for. It's very hard to describe, Wendy.
Well, I'm going to make you describe it a little bit more.
Yeah.
You talk about something in the book called blood harmony. Vika, what do you mean by that?
That only the siblings can have, or families.
Well, my sister and I, quite frankly,
Yeah.
we are just superb.
There you
when we
go.
sing together, especially after
Yes.
like 10 vodkas.
Yeah.
But when we sing, there ain't nobody here but us chickens, blah, blah, we are just brilliant at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
But let's just dwell on this for a little bit.
Okay.
So when you approach, a song and you want to create a sound, where does it come from? Does it come from the brain? Does it come from the heart? Does it come from the throat? Is it a physical? Is it a mental? Is it an emotional thing?
Well, it's all of those things.
All those things.
It's all those things.
Yeah.
It's very physical, but I think the sound that siblings have or families have is because they have similar kind of resonating chambers.
Oh, really?
Because the
You
sound
think it's
all-
actually physiological?
Yes,
even?
yes,
Yeah.
very much so. So that's why we blend. That's why you blend so well.
Oh, really?
So it's a physical thing, and but it is that it's just I don't know. You know what I think? We got a head start listening to the Tongan choir
Yeah.
when we were kids.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. But Linda, what do you think about this? And I just want to ask you this in that case, whenever you approach a piece of music where you're going to sing together, do you always sort of take the same path, or
Yeah.
are you open to discussion, or what happens?
That's a good question. No one's ever asked us that, Wendy.
Hooray!
Yeah, it's a...
You've asked us a lot of different questions.
Well,
it's good.
when we were children, Mum naturally heard that Vika has a more of a high voice and I have a low one.
Mm-hmm.
So she said, okay, Vika, you can take the high harmony, Linda, you take the low. That was the path we were given or taught.
You're right.
And that is the one that we trained ourselves to sing to, every minute we could.
Mm-hmm.
And we've stuck to that. We've stuck to that
And that's
formula.
always worked?
That's always worked for us.
And what happens
And
if
when-
sometimes you think, oh, we might just experiment, dick around with this a bit? Does it end in failure?
It doesn't sound
Doesn't
good.
sound good.
It
All right,
doesn't
I'm going to
sound
ask you to do something now.
good. Okay.
I am going to ask you to improvise a harmony to, let's think about a song that you might, okay, to Happy Birthday to You.
Oh,
Okay.
that's Vika's favourite song. She's in charge of the high harmony in every
Okay.
single
You know,
birthday.
it's so bad that every time my daughter refuses, she won't let me sing Happy Birthday when it's her birthday because I always go for the high harmony.
All right, let's hear it.
So do you want the one that we would
I
normally
want to
naturally do?
hear. I want to hear the two sisters. And if you attack the song, a happy birthday, where you place yourselves. 1, 2.
Naturally.
Yes.
Has anyone got a birthday today?
Yes, Teresa.
Teresa,
Teresa.
let's sing to Teresa.
Teresa. Okay, let's hear
Teresa.
it, gals. Let's hear it. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Teresa. Happy birthday to you.
Oh my gosh.
Hit it! Hooray! Hit it! Hooray! Hit it! Hooray!
Oh my gosh.
Happy birthday.
What did you just do there? What happened? Talk us through that.
We started in unison.
Yep.
Oh no, did we? Yeah.
Yep.
Started in unison, and then we split.
Yep.
We split at a time when the song needs a lift. Vika goes up, I go into the lower harmony. Well, Vika actually takes the melody, I go down. And then we just work like that. We stick like, I guess if you had a hand, and I always try to describe harmony like this, it's like, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, you know, we split and come together when we feel it sounds right.
Ah, so how much of it is, I'm sorry, we're getting very into the weeds here, but
Yeah.
how much of it is a technique that you know very well, and how much of it is like, this feels right in the moment? I guess there's no way to sort of split that, you see?
Most of it is because we've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
It's in
It's
our DNA. We
Yeah,
know
right.
instinctively what to do. But you know, it's interesting because when we do sessions for other people, and they ask us maybe to have a different attack. Linda and I know how when we
Yep.
sing together, what sort of an attack we need to take,
Right.
what we need to do. But when we need to do harmony, so they go, oh, can you do it a bit like this? Can you sing it a bit more pure? Can you have no vibrato? Then it becomes difficult,
Yeah.
you know. Then it becomes like, oh,
When they mess with our
you
natural
know,
thing.
with our natural thing. Yeah, it's like, well, you know, don't get us to sing your harmonies, but you don't want us to do our natural game, you know. So, but it's a challenge as well. So we like doing that. We like trying different things.
Yeah. Well, let's go to the beginning. And I mean, a round of applause for that wonderful demonstration, because, I mean, that just made, I think, all of our hearts just flutter hearing that. Let's go back to when you were little girls.
Mm-hmm.
And you, I think, Vika,
Yes.
sang from almost the moment that you were born, and you were in the house, you were like, la 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 la, since you were a really tiny little thing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and
My favourite song was Kookaburra Sits
oh,
on the old gum tree, in the old gum tree. Kookaburra Sits in the old gum tree. That was my favourite song. Yeah.
We can harmonise on that if you
Yeah.
like. But so, how did you feel as a little girl when you were singing that? Where did that come from? Was it just was that it was so much a part of you? It was completely not a thing that you thought, oh, I might sing. It just rose up out of you.
Mum, it's just something, as soon as I could speak, I sang.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just one of those things.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, it was just always there.
Yeah.
Mm.
And same for you, Linda?
No, the opposite. I just sang at home for fun with Vic, but I didn't think that it was necessarily great. I didn't think it could be a career.
Yeah.
I knew Vika had that fire in her she was a really great singer. I love listening to Vika sing at home, but I just sort of sang along for fun.
It seems to me that the big shift came for both of you. Not the shift, but it is such a big part of your book here, and such an important part of your book. When you gals, you're in primary school, you're only littlies, and you went off to Tonga. So tell us about that amazing trip. And I should say that they went off to Tonga knowing that they were going to have no TV, no Christmas presents, And actually, I think in the end they ended up with Christmas presents, but it was tropical fever.
Yeah.
But this trip is so beautifully rendered in the book, and it's where you became acquainted with your culture, which is such a huge part of everything that you do.
That was the purpose of the trip. A mother thought that, and father thought it would be good to teach us the culture, and in that culture he meant the language, Mum meant the language, the dancing of all of the Pacific Island nations, how they lived island life, how they went without, how to the customs in particular. Tongan customs are very important, and we were schooled in that for 3 months intensively without knowing it.
You've been singing in church before this, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, but when you went to Tonga, this was this intense experience.
It was frightening, actually, listening to the church choir, because it was so powerful. It was very spiritual.
Yeah.
And just when a group of people can sing so well together,
Yeah.
it was just, that was the one thing I think why Dad fell in love with Mum. It was because of her culture, and it was just so different to his. But I think it was the singing. It was the way the Tongans can sing. Yeah. So it was Dad that wanted us to go home back to Mum's country and learn her culture. He said, it's very important, you know, your mother is Tongan, I want you to know her customs and how she grew up. So he was the one that instigated the whole thing and saved for years for that trip, you know. So, and it was the best gift they ever gave us, you know. And just seeing a different way of life, seeing, you know, life in Tonga is very hard, and they struggle, you know, and that was very eye-opening as kids to see that, yeah.
But you were in suburban Doncaster, which I think we tried to locate the Sydney equivalent of what that suburb might be, and we came up with Castle Hill.
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah.
But you were connected there, even though you're in a overwhelmingly probably kind of white middle class suburb, quite connected to your culture.
We were, yes, because
we're fourth generation Doncaster girls. On Dad's side of the family, they were orchardists. They that's why we chose to live in Doncaster, because that was the home ground.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't leave until we were ready to go to high school. So yeah, it was we went to school in Doncaster, and we went to church in the church that Scott and Charlene got married in Neighbours, and it was a very white, I mean, in a bad way. I just mean a conservative.
But you did
not
have
really mixed race people.
But you did have your encounters with racism, Vika, rather.
I had my, racism.
Yes, you did.
Yes, look, you know what? There were Lebanese kids, and there were Italians, and there were Greeks, but and I'm sure they all copped it too. But we were the only Tongans. You know, Mum, we were the only Tongans, and so we got picked on for that. Gee, the peas is really shitting me. Sorry, I'll try and
without wanting to relive it in any sort of visceral way. But what did they pick on you for? What did they say to you?
Oh, they call you black, they call you darky, they call you, and we never ever experienced, you were in prep. And it's like, okay, and we used to walk home from school on our own when we were in prep. And so, I remember very clearly 2 little boys following me home and picking on me for saying, oh, you're black, you're darky, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what's that? What's that? I mean, it was, and I cried and had quite a bit in school.
Yeah. At high school, just to move along a bit, I can't. It is just extraordinary to look at the different paths you took during high school. Head prefect.
Yes.
Dropout.
Yeah. See? Yeah.
I want you, before we go on to any great detail, tell us about the Mohawk incident.
Well, I wanted to be cool, so I was just like into Depeche Mode and all those sort of bands, And so I had a friend whose sister was a hairdresser, so I went and saw her after school, and she gave me a mohawk. And I walked out of the hairdresser and went, oh, Mum's not going to be very happy. Because, you know, I was only 15. And Mum flipped. It was actually really bad.
Didn't she actually move out of house?
She left home for 2 days. She left home for 2 days. She didn't come back. And I was devastated. Yeah, it was terrible. I remember howling at my school locker, wanting her to come back. But that's how she reacted. She was so conservative, you know. Mum was very, and that's what I struggled with. She was very straight, you know. She's like, you know, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You're going to have an education. You're going to, you know, behave. You have to, you know, wear your hair a certain way. I want you to wear, you know, dress properly. I want you to, and I hated it. I was just like, I don't want to do that. So I had a mohawk. I cut my school tie. I did all sorts of things to really rub her up the wrong way.
And you... But the mohawk, really?
It was a stupid haircut, yeah.
Yeah, actually, there's a photo of it in the book. Actually,
Yeah,
it's pretty
yeah.
cool, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Miss Goody Two Shoes down the road.
What?
Well, the interesting, but you were very sporty, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you made your place there in high school.
Yes.
On the sports field. Yeah.
Yes, I love sport.
Yeah.
Very much so. I took part in everything.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Linda is sitting there going, I think I've got an assignment coming up in 2 weeks. I better start on it now.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
Ended up as head prefect.
Look, Wendy.
Tell us all about that. I've got a daughter like that. Oh, Mum, I've got a good for you know, everything coming up in a month. I'll be,
Linda.
For fuck's sake.
That's Linda.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, for fuck's sake, you know, whatever. But yeah, I've got one of those. So let's just hear about you and your blazer and your pocket. What was on your pocket? What was on your blazer? And what did your mum and dad think when you came home and said, I might be head prefect?
Well, yes, the pocket was big. It was getting bigger, and we went to a private school, so the pocket was very important. You know, they would put on your house, and then they would say, I was house captain, I was sports captain, and I was head prefect. So that would go down in order, and you had all these little badges and everything, and Mum loved it. When I was voted as head prefect, I was a bit shocked. I thought that was for squares and very smart kids, and I kind of couldn't figure out why that was me. And my principal said to me that, you know, well, you have been voted by the teachers and the students, and so you've got to decide whether you want to take it or not.
And there was a little bit of hesitation there.
Yeah, well, the system in private schools I didn't agree with was that you had to give out punishments to other students, and I didn't like that. That was the one thing I didn't like. But also the fact that I might fail my VCE because of the workload, added workload. But because Mum struggled, the fees were high. And
Why did they want to send you to private school? What was that
Dad,
about?
Dad didn't.
Dad didn't.
Oh, okay.
Mum did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
She's the boss.
because she immigrated, she felt like that was like to give us the best chance. She felt like that not sending us to a government school might give us a better chance.
Yeah.
Dad did not agree with that.
Well, she came from a poor country. Education's key. You know, that was the way out.
And
So
of
that
course
was important.
you're ungrateful wretch.
That's right.
You just bogged off in year 11.
That's right. I was. Look, I look back now, Wendy, I'm not proud of how I behaved, okay? I just, you know, I was a total loser and just kicked it in their face, you know. Mum worked her ass off to pay for those fees, and so did Dad, you know. So Mum paid for the school fees and Dad paid for everything else. That's how they worked it out, you know.
Yeah.
We didn't eat out, we didn't do anything. I mean, we went without a lot of things. They weren't rich at all, and they worked really hard to put us through that school. So
They never bought. I can't remember one time when they bought clothes for themselves. Not once. Or went shopping for themselves.
They are absolutely remarkable people, your parents, and I'll get to that a bit later on. So there you go, you little Miss Runaway in your mohawk,
yeah.
and you join a band. And your mum was thrilled, of course.
Yes, I wanted, when I left school, when I finished, look, you'll read about it in the book, but she
If you
she
like.
wasn't pleased at all. I said, I'm going to join a band. I don't want to finish school. I want to join a band. And she said, no, you have to get some sort of qualification and then you can join a band. So we made a deal. And that's what I did. I stuck to my end. I went and became a legal secretary. And then once I passed that, and I got honours, by the way, so I was like, I wasn't a total loser. And then went and joined a band straight away. That's exactly what I did.
And there was the evening, or the occasion at least, where you and your mum went along to see this one singing and went, oh fuck.
Yep.
That's torn it. That's what she's going to do.
Yep.
Because she's so good.
Yeah, I won't forget that. Vika got up at a club in Melbourne called the Central Club. Is that right, Vic? And Mum and Dad and I travelled along because we thought, oh, she's going to sing a song. Don't know what it's going to be like. We knew it wasn't going to be terrible, but we didn't think it would be that good.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Had no idea
Yeah.
that it would be that good because Vika chose to sing Respect, the Aretha Franklin song, which is not the easiest
Come
song
on.
to sing.
Give us a blast.
No.
Come on. Respect. Come on a little bit.
We'll do the backing
Just
vocals.
a little bit. Come on. Come on. A little
Really?
bit. Yes, please.
What you want? Baby, I got it. What you need? You know I got it. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Hey, baby,
Just a little
when you
bit.
get home.
Just a little bit.
Mister.
Just a little bit.
There you go.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine being mum going like that? Holy Toledo. I'm going to interpolate here just for a moment. My daughter, in her final year of one of her final year of primary school, the local concert, school concert, you know, just at the local, you know, scrap heap primary school. The person who put on the concert for the young girls thought that Ted Mowry's Jump in My Car might be a really good song for a whole lot of 10 and 11-year-olds.
A little bit inappropriate, yeah.
Until I intervened and said, he's not going to jump in my car. No, not happening. So, but if I'd been to see you, it would have been a very different thing.
Well, Ted Mowry that was one of Linda's favourite songs, wasn't it?
That's the,
When you were-
that's the first thing Vika bought me.
Jump in my car. I want to take
Yeah,
you
but
home.
it's not
Yeah, no, the lyrics are not great.
as time moves on.
It's not good.
So there you were, and so then you went feral and you left home and you joined a band, and not long after you entranced and beguiled this woman to join you. Tell us about that.
I did. Linda wasn't very happy. She was at university studying to become an art teacher. Because Linda's
She was very happy actually, but you actually fucked her up. Let's be real about that. She was quite happy until you came along.
Well, I knew that we could sing in harmony, and Linda was like a little. That's right. She didn't have a very good time at university. I know, Wendy. She didn't have a very good time at university,
Yeah.
and so I asked her. I said, "Why don't you come sing with me and have a go?" And because I knew we had that natural thing, I knew we'd be a great team, and so she said to Mum, "I'm going to go sing with Vic." Exactly.
Oh my! Shit hit the fan.
It
Yeah.
did.
Oh, yeah.
Did it? Tell us about that.
I can't even speak about the look on Mum's face. It was, no, not her as well. Please, not. So, yeah, I can understand you, but not two of you. No, come on now, don't be stupid. And just thinking, all that hard work, you're going to you throw it down the drain to join a band? I don't get it. And I had to convince her. So I think that Dad saw the strength in numbers. He saw that if we were together, we stood a better chance of being successful and better chance of navigating that really, really tough industry. But her only rules were, don't take drugs.
Don't get a
Don't
tattoo.
get a tattoo.
But
Has
there was.
anyone of you got a tattoo to this day?
We don't have a tattoo, no.
I say the same to my kids. You're not. Well, anyway.
But that may change, you know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it wasn't a career choice back then, you know. It was like a hobby. Everyone considered music to be like a hobby, or just, unless you were a classical musician, that was different. But, you know, to go and join a band was like, well, that's a hobby. That's not a career.
You're not going to make money.
Yeah, but we knew, well, I knew deep down that it was going to become my career, and that's what I wanted to do. So, yeah.
And you inveigled little sister into it.
Yes.
Now, is everyone feeling that we're going along now? Please feel free if you need to go to the bar or do whatever. This is pretty. I want to move on to the point of Melbourne in the 80s, and this is pretty much where we crossed.
Yep.
paths.
Yes.
And I'm writing my memoir at the moment, and just remembering, and I don't know what the equivalent was in Sydney, but the inner city area of Fitzroy, Collingwood, Northcote in Melbourne was just this washing machine of cultural references. It was like everything was just thrown into the mix, and there were bands, there were little venues in every corner. There was comedy, there was cassette magazines, could you believe? And art galleries everywhere. And you, my gorgeous friend, you landed smack in the middle of it. Now I want to just give a bit of context here, because one of the people that you met in the place that you landed was Henry Mars, who ran the Black Cat Cafe, which was, the place to be. Any Melburnians here? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And you remember that Henry had the band Bachelors from Prague, and you'll remember they were on the big gig, which I hosted. Mm-hmm. So we ended up being in the kind of same extraordinary milieu.
Yeah.
And from memory, in your book, you say that you got a job at the Black Cat. Who's been in the Black Cat? Vika may have made a toasted sandwich.
An onion burger.
Yeah, an onion burger. And then what happened was that she went to Henry, who owned the cafe, head of the Bachelors Club, and said, I want to start a band. And he came up with what I think is the most terrible name for a band of all time.
I agree. I thought it was a shit name as well. It was the Honeymooners, it's okay. But the trouble is, it was already decided.
I was doing a shift there too.
You were doing a shift there?
And Henry said to me, why don't you call your band the Honeymooners? And I went, okay, but I didn't ask Vic. And so he went and made a poster, and that was it, the name of the Honeymooners. But I think Vic thought it was a bit soft. It was a bit, a bit mature, and we were only 18. Yeah.
I didn't really know about the show, the TV show. That's the thing. I'm thinking, why would he call it the Honeymooners? And he was
straight to the moon,
Alice.
Straight to the moon.
Yeah. So
yeah. So there you were. I mean, you were very much into the band. You were just sort of moonlighting in a way.
Yeah.
So when did you jump the fence and go, right, this is going to be it for me, Inga?
I joined when Henry suggested to Vic that we get up and sing in public together for the first time. He said, if Linda can sing, can Linda sing? And Vic said, yeah. And he goes, well, why don't you invite her along and you guys can do a duet with the band? That was the first time I sang in public. It wasn't successful, but that was the first time.
But obviously this came as a crushing blow, as we mentioned a little earlier, that your mum had now lost two of you to the industry.
Yeah.
It was devastating for her, because, she thought Linda would be, Linda's very studious, so she thought perhaps something like, law or teaching or something like that, and so when that didn't happen, she was devastated. But, Mum's good now. She's very happy with the way things have turned out. So, yeah.
So you were with the honeymooners there, you were gigging around town.
Yeah.
And that's so as to say that where I crossed paths with you at various sort of gigs.
Lots of gigs.
Yeah, quite right.
Yes.
But then Joe Camilleri came onto the scene.
Yeah.
Let's hear about Joe Camilleri and the Black Sorrows. He was just out of JoJo's and the Falcons, right?
That's right.
Putting together a new band. Tell us how you came to be in his band.
Well, we were invited to audition by Peter Luscombe, the drummer, and Joe was just recording Hold On To Me. So that's right, the Falcons had won.
Just remind us, just sing a little bit of Hold On To Me for us. Take us back there.
Oh, see, we don't really sing in Hold On To Me, we play tambourine. Okay.
Oh,
Hold
okay,
on
play
to
tambourine.
me.
Hold on to me. Yeah, we were dead on arrival. Safe home at last. That one.
Yeah, that one.
And it was a very successful album. When we joined towards the end of recording, and we auditioned, we went on tour. We got to sing a couple of tracks on that record. We met Vanetta Fields when he was recording that because she was doing a lot of the backing vocals. I don't know if you know Vanetta, she's an incredible...
Well, with John Farnham, of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
she came from America. I think she was singing with Boz Gags.
Barbara Streisand.
Barbara Streisand.
And I Kept. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she was one of our teachers in the beginning. She taught us how to sing in the studio. So he was doing Hold On To Me, and so we went in, sang a few tracks, then went on the road and joined that band. That's when it all kind of changed for us.
And of course, I'm not going to, ask you to sort of relate the whole, because it's all in the book. The tours with that band and the various, travails and negotiations about contracts and so forth. But I want you to tell me about the music scene at the time. What did the music scene make of you as two Tongan gals? Were they interested in your cultural contribution? Did you, did they ask you to look a certain way? Did you push back? What happened there?
No, there were no rules. There was no job description. It was just, we weren't even told what to wear by Joe when we joined the Black Sorrows. He just said, wear what you want. Be comfortable and wear what you want. And we figured it out as we went along. And I think we were unaware of we started pulling out Tongan dance moves second gig in with Black Sorrows because we didn't know what to do.
I just want to say this, by the way, that you gals have, as far as I know, you learnt a lot of your...
Yeah.
Just give us a little bit of it. Put your mics down for a sec and just show us some of the hand movements that you've always used in your beautiful singing.
Just like that.
Oh.
It's in and then out. Yeah.
Well,
we learned a lot of the dances around the South Pacific. But that's what we relied on when we didn't know what to do. We just went, what are we? I can't stand here and look at our feet.
But what I mean to say is that, did you ever come up against, because we hear this quite a lot, about people in the music biz who said, I want you to lose 10 kilos, I want you to dye your hair, I want you to wear a short skirt, did that ever happen to you?
No.
Well, that's cool.
No.
Why do you think that was when so many people complain of that?
I think...
Well, there was two of us, so I think if they tried, they would, one agreed, the other one, we had to agree.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of was a big barrier in the beginning, and it still is. If you want to get us to change, you've got to get both of us to do it.
All right, okay.
And
your mum and your dad.
I think they were terrified.
Jesus.
I think
The
the
whole
executives were a bit
family.
scared of Vic.
The whole Bull
No,
family.
I don't. Yeah, I remember seeing.
Sorry.
I don't know what if we didn't really have we didn't know what we just learned as we went along, Wendy. We just had no idea. We didn't plan okay, we're going to look a certain way. We just sort of dressed the way we dressed. We just, in the beginning we were hopeless. So we stood up there and we did the daggiest dance moves. And I remember, we don't write about it in the book, but I remember this particular incident. We were playing at the in the Cross. We were playing at a club there.
The Cardoma Cafe.
The Cardoma Cafe.
Yeah.
And that's when we first started with the Sorrows, where we started getting, packing out clubs and things. And I remember Linda and Joe had just brought us down the front, and we were doing the most stupidest dance moves. And I remember there was a person in the audience at the very front that was taking us off like this. Yeah. And I looked at them and I went, okay, we got to do something else. We have to change. and
Tone it down a bit.
Tone it down and just figure out what we're seriously going to do, because we are up the front and people are watching everything we're doing. So
It's kind of interesting that, you know, like, as I say, I'm writing my memoir and I can identify lots of mentors,
yeah,
but you have had each other until, and gets where it gets lovely, there was one particular mentor that steps into the picture around the end of Sorrows, and that is one Paul Kelly.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Tell us what Paul did for you.
so much.
Well, for starters, he was the first person that encouraged us to write songs.
Wow.
So
okay.
before that, we hadn't done anything like that, and no one had ever expressed any interest in our talent in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, well, you can sing, I know you can do that, but what about write songs too? So he would, every week he would sit down with us and we would dedicate one day a week where we try and write songs together with him. So what he gave us was that, you know, confidence in other parts of our career that we hadn't even thought of.
Tell me, I know Paul myself from back in those days. Tell the people here, because he's quite enigmatic, Mr. Kelly.
It's quiet.
Quite enigmatic. Tell us about what it's like to be in his presence. Do you feel intimidated? He's very quiet. I remember being, at sort of dinner parties with Paul, but he'd be, across the dinner table at least, and he'd be very quiet, and I would go. Anyway, and then when I was 8, I went on this trip, and then when I was 7, because he can be quite taciturn. You know, how do you?
I think that's why he's such a good songwriter, because he doesn't talk too much. He just watches what's going on and listens.
Yeah.
You know, he's very much an observer. But
And
we were very intimidated by Paul.
But what did you
even
think?
Still to this day.
Oh, everyone is.
You know, it's like,
These are just an ordinary fucker from Adelaide. But what did you think that you had to bring to the table there that Paul appreciated?
we didn't bring anything to the table.
Really?
Only our voices.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I think he liked singing with us.
Yes.
I think he liked our honesty.
He liked
We didn't kiss up to him. We just...
He liked the way we harmonised. I think that's the only thing we brought to the table.
But you did start to write your own songs, though.
Yeah.
And where did that come from, or what were you thinking about and writing about?
He would ask us to tell him stories. He'd say, tell us what's been happening today, girls, or what's been happening this week, what's been happening in your life. So we'd talk, and that's how we got it. That's how he helped us to sort of, that's how he taught us. We're like, okay, so we just write about everyday life. This is very cool.
Yeah. It's hard question. We don't know what he thinks of us still. We just get along.
Okay. So I love all. You ended up. There's so many wonderful stories in this book. I'm going to just jump on a couple. Tell us about your debut album. You did want to express your Tongan culture in that. So tell us about the debut album, which happened in what year was that?
94.
94.
Yeah, I think the only thing about the culture was the album cover. Because once you listen to the record, there's nothing to do with Tonga in there at all.
And
It's
that
just
was
the album cover.
And that was a bit of a problem, wasn't it? Because you really hadn't hit on what was the thing that you were wanting to be known for. You were a bit this and a bit that, and a bit that. You knew you had a Tongan thing in the middle, but no one had really brought it out of you in the way that you know now.
Yeah, we only used it visually as a
Right,
tool.
yeah,
We didn't use our culture as a sound in our music. That came out in the next record, Princess Taboo, that we did, where we went back to Tonga. We took our band. We wrote every single song, co-wrote every single song on that record with the view to expressing ourselves, you know, equally. But before that, it was just the look. It wasn't the sound.
And what gave you the courage to pursue the sound, Vika?
I think it was just this. You mean the Tongan part?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was there. It was like, okay, why wouldn't we use it? There's so many good melodies. There's so many good rhythms. There's, you know, we even sang in Tongan. The language is so beautiful. There's no harsh consonants in the Tongan alphabet.
Can you give us a little example of what that sounds like?
Oh, well, hello is malolale. Malolale, and you fefe hake, and then you say
We
that.
sang a song in Tongan.
And extraordinarily musical, of course.
Yeah.
You know, that language. Can you just give us a little bit of singing perhaps in Tongan, maybe?
Yeah, there's a song we did that we haven't done this for a long time. Wendy, thanks for putting us on the spot.
Oh, well, here we are.
We sang this down a mine once. We sang it in Tongan, but we used the old Tongan, and Mum taught us how to do this when we went back to Tonga, so we could put it on the album Princess Taboo.
Okay.
It's a killer toy, yeah. Do you want to pick the note?
I can't remember. Okay. Amu si amu a siau kakala oku mo fe kita oka mo uini sione kuo a kilotoa ehe o falioa. It's
It goes on.
it's just a sad.
We picked the wrong part of the song.
No.
It's a sad.
Can you articulate what it feels like when you sing in Tongan?
Hi, you want to talk into it?
Look, it's a difficult. My battery's gone flat. It's a difficult language. It's not difficult. They have little You know, it's like we stuffed up that song when we sang that song the first time, because just little pronunciation things that we got incorrect, and we didn't bother to check with Mum. We just sang it. She heard it. She went, "Oh my God, you've sung the wrong line." Because the opening line is "This is my life," and we had sung "This is my behind." That's how it's translated. But we sang "This is my past," not "This is my life." But so we did stuff those things up. But it is a beautiful language to sing because it is a very soft and melodic sort of language.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you can we replace this
Just got a flat battery.
microphone, please, Tom? So there you are, you're with Paul Kelly and I do love. Oh, you've got to tell everyone the Iggy Pop story.
You want to tell it?
No, go Linda, you got the mic.
Well, we were invited. We did WOMAD Adelaide around about 1995. It's one of the first WOMADs, and we were invited to go, and we sang there. After we sang at WOMAD Adelaide, Peter Gopil's team said, "We want to pick 2 Australian acts to go tour Spain and come to Peter's house and record at his house for 1 whole week, when you can just have free reign and do whatever you like." And he was very hospitable. But the idea behind the collaboration, behind the trip was to also record there for a week. And on one particular instance, he had to collaborate with an artist on the WOMAD tour. So, you know, that was people like Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan and the drummers of Burundi and wonderful artists, but Vika and I were too shy to ask. So we left it too long, and the time was running out. And his people were saying, "Look, you know, have you got someone to work with tomorrow?" And we said no. We didn't ask anybody. But we were doing a show in the Gospel Tent at Reading Festival, and when I walked backstage, Vika was doing a solo, and huddled in the corner of our tiny little backstage area was Iggy Pop and Johnny Depp on the couch. And that's how we met. And I went back on stage and said to Vic, "You never guess who's behind. You know, there's Iggy. You won't believe it. Anyway, don't freak out." And she didn't. So, she walked backstage. We hung out, and Iggy said, "What are you guys doing?" And we said, "Look, we've got our last day tomorrow. We need to collaborate with somebody. We haven't asked anyone."
Keep going.
Comfortable silence.
Keep going.
And he said, "Well, I'll do it." And we went, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll do it." And we went, "But it's tomorrow. Are you busy?" And he said, "No." "What time?" We said 3 o'clock. And 3 o'clock came around the next day, and he turned up. Iggy turned up with Johnny and Kate Moss and Vernon Reid from, it was a snapshot of that time. They all rocked up, and he sang a song that we'd chosen to do, which was "I Know Where to Go to Feel Good," a Paul Kelly song. and Iggy had to
Which
do
was
one
about masturbation.
masturbation.
But apparently when you explained that to him, he was even more impressed.
He goes, "What's this song about?" And we said, "Well, it's called I Know Where to Go to Feel Good." And he goes, "Yeah." And we said, "It's about masturbation." He goes, "Okay, great. I can do it." And all he had to do was deliver the line, "I know where to go to feel good." And he did that really well.
Do an impersonation of it for me. How did he deliver it?
Oh, he's got such a deep voice, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. I'll do it.
I know where to go.
I know where to go.
I know where to go. Exactly. It was great.
It actually really suited him really well, but it never got released. But we have a tape of it,
Oh, well.
a cassette. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, well, you must.
There's lots of sort of times when we've met famous people, but never have we actually had a chance to get in the studio with them. You know, that was one of the oddest things about that encounter, and that's why we put it in the book.
And I love it, the way that you write about that too. You know, you've had your disappointments along the way. I know that you write in the book, Linda, about your marriage breaking up, which I suppose was a big disappointment for you.
Yep.
And also, Vika, you write about your travails with your voice. Now, as a performer myself, I've been in this situation of being in the middle of a stand-up routine and just losing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And there is nothing more traumatic. I mean, at least I was able to sort of, you know, just point to the next idiot who was going to come on and do some stand-up. But in your case, this was a really big thing. Tell us about your whole journey with your voice.
Well, it was just from smoking too much, drinking too much, partying too much, you know, singing 2 hours, 6 nights a week, over trying to compete with loud musicians who wouldn't turn down their amps.
Yeah.
So I eventually just damaged my voice. I damaged my vocal cords and had to have surgery.
And you, of course, you were very worried about that because, I mean, Julie Andrews, she had a vocal surgery and just lost her voice.
Completely.
But you were actually in pretty good hands, as it turned out.
Well, I was scared, and I had a really good surgeon, and you know, there's risks, of course, and but I had to do something because I tried everything before I went under the knife, and it was just not going to fix itself. But I'm so glad that I did. It's the best thing that I ever did. He said, if you have the operation, you'll be singing like your 18-year-old self again, which happened. You know, but I did I did speech therapy. I didn't speak for a month after I had the operation, but it was very scary. It's the worst thing, you know, as a performer to be under par every night, not be at your best, you know. It's horrible.
Now we're going to rattle along a bit because I think we're probably getting close to time. But I do want to go to the point. So there you are. You know you've been with Paul Kelly. You've been with you've been doing your own stuff. You've been doing But there came a time there from the early 2000s to probably the late 2000s when you gals hit the doldrums, as you say, doldrums, and you didn't work together at all.
No.
And this just seems to me to be a travesty, you know. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like for you, but it must have looked for a time there where these beautiful harmonies, this wonderful sister blood harmony, we wouldn't hear it again. What did you think? What was happening then?
Well, it's true. I decided somehow in my brain, I thought when I was 40 that I wouldn't have a career after that. I just put a number on it, and that's stupid, but I did that. And I had a horrible time trying to start again, my life again with my 2 kids, you know, on my own. And our manager was my husband. And so I thought, well, it's a sign that I should just stop. I should just stop and not sing for a while or quit altogether. And I wasn't very popular with you, was I, Vic, for doing that? Because Vika didn't want to stop. But I was finding things increasingly difficult to keep going. I had to look after kids, I had to sing at night, I was running a shop. Vika and my ex-husband were fighting, and then we split up, and I just went, I just need to stop. It's all too much for me, I'm going to have a heart attack. And so I stopped.
And you were off, you were doing these shows as Eddie James, and you were travelling the world in these music, you know, what do you call them? Biopics.
Narrative concert.
Narrative concerts, yeah. And so you were off on your path as well. At that time, did you think that you were ever going to be reunited with your sister?
No, I thought that was it.
No, I was really pissed off. No, I didn't think that... I wasn't sure that she would come back. She was forced into that situation, though, because her husband didn't want to look after, you know, didn't want Linda touring so much, I think, and so Linda had to stay home. And I was like, okay, well, okay. Yeah, and I was disappointed, yes, because we had a good sound, and I didn't want to give up on that. So I didn't know that she was going to come back, and I'm glad she did when she decided to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things that happened there, because you went on your separate ways, that you were together apart for quite a long time there. But you, in the book, Linda, say that perhaps in the end it wasn't such a bad thing that you were thrown, you know, into your own kind of, you know, defences, and you had to achieve outside being together, and then it ended up being to the good.
Yeah, I think that's been the reason why we're so strong now, is because I missed Vic. I missed her the interaction, but I also think it's important to know that you can do something else. I had no idea I could do anything other than
And you
sing.
ran a really successful shop.
I ran a
baby clothes shop.
Yeah, that's right. But I think, in retrospect, struggling, trying to make a life outside of music, trying to meet people who weren't musicians, trying to reimagine what you could do with your life past 40 was a very important thing. But I think that's the reason why I enjoy what we're doing now so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where were you at this time? What were you thinking?
I don't remember. I was probably... I don't remember. I can't... Where was I? I think I was working in a law... I was working for a law firm.
You were?
I was secretary.
Yeah, you were.
I loved it.
Yeah. But you got back...
She was good at it.
But you did get back together. Here you are. I mean, and you know, I'm sure people want to know where the kids are. You've got three daughters between you, and your mum and dad are still pottering around at the age of 88.
Yep.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah. Yep.
But here you are. This has been you hit. You were just getting back on your feet. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And here you were with our friend Dan Andrews in the most draconian lockdown in the world, but you managed to sing to 6 million people. How did that happen?
Social media.
And you never even thought about social media.
No.
What happened?
Well, our manager Lisa said to us, well, you know, things are going to change, girls, what are you going to do? You know, you might want to give back to the audience that you had to cancel concerts. What about you sing a song every Sunday at 11 o'clock and we put it live on Facebook and we put it live on Instagram? And Vika normally says, sorry, this is not a negative thing, but Vika normally her reaction is no. But
I say no every time.
Of course. I do too. It's a really good quality.
But this time she said, sure. We'll do it tomorrow, which is what we did. We got on Vika's porch and we went back to where we started as kids and just sang really simply and filmed it live.
I hate to say it, but I think that it was a really good time for Linda and I, because it took us back to our roots. You know, just the two of us singing in our bedroom, you know, just very basic instrumentation, just going back there, and I think that connected with people, and it was the most success we've ever had in the last 35 years.
Yeah.
And of course, the hit was...
Surprising.
I Saw City Limits.
Oh, yeah.
Which we've seen millions of times. You rewrote the Nutbush Limits. Come on.
Well,
it was one verse at least.
Oh.
I can't remember it.
I Saw City Limits.
Yeah, no, we decided... It's COVID number 19 that people keep the city clean.
You don't have to do that.
Yeah. That was surprising. Like, when
but
did we do
here you are. And now you're in your 50s?
Yep.
How old are you?
55.
56.
here you are. You're now OAMs.
Yeah.
Or in between birthday of this.
The last one,
Last Queen.
Queen. Yeah, that was nice.
You have an album. You're nominated for an ARIA Award.
Yes.
Yeah. Last time that was 20 years ago.
Now, one of your tunes was I think the first ever female duet to make #1 in the charts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've been very
And
productive.
here you are.
Yeah, we're really
Awesome.
happy that you know, I think the book it's just a few. It was very.
What would you like people to take away from reading the book, Vika?
Well, it's just about family, really, and how Linda and I have worked, sort of, how we've had such a long career, how it's lasted, and how we nearly broke up. We didn't. There were moments there. And, well, blood's thicker than water, I think. You know, it's like there's only two of us. If we'd separated, that would be the end of the family. I would never see her children. You know, Mum and Dad would be heartbroken. It's just about trying to work through your times, and I think that's one of the greatest lessons our parents have given us: is sit down and talk it through, talk it out. You know, and I think that's why we've survived, and also give and take. You know, it's like a marriage. You know, we shit each other, but there's a little bit of give and take. There's always, you know, always discussions. We're always having meetings, but it's important.
What about also? I mean, I asked Linda this. What about also the trajectory of a career? It seems to me that a lot of people think a career in shows goes chunk, 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 and you end up at the top of the roller coaster. But actually, it's like it's up and down and up and down. It's a very precarious way to make a life.
Yeah, it is.
What's the
It's
secret
not
to
the easy-
making it work, do you think?
It's thick skin, because one minute you're groovy, then you're not. You know, you're hip, then you're not. People say horrible things about you. It's only for people with thick skin. This industry, you've got to be tough, and if you're going to join, get tough quick.
Yeah.
I think in its purest form, we just love singing, and we don't limit ourselves with fashion. We don't care about whether it's sexy or popular. We just love it, and I think that's the secret to our longevity. Yeah.
Sexy and popular. OAM. Always. What a great story. We have, I don't know how far we've run over this because I haven't been keeping time, but I think we've got some time for some questions, do we?
Yep.
Yep. Again, what a
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for coming this evening, everyone. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Wendy.
Wendy.
Oh, no, we haven't finished yet. You're not out of the woods yet, girls. There's lots of people want to talk to you one-on-one and ask you some questions.
I said that I liked your backup on Never Let Go. There's more, it was a chorus. It was Never Let Go, the rest of the band singing Never Let Go, and the both of you singing
Lead.
Never Let Go.
Yeah, we sang the lead.
That really stood out on the track. But I can't remember the name of the...
Have you got a question here, Doll, or are you having a comment?
Here's my question.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the track. It was a live version, and it was all about your grandfather on your mother's side walking to school 6 feet behind you. And from what you've said tonight, really summed up the pressures that were on you to conform, and he was dressed all in traditional Tongan
Yes,
There is a
yes.
love, there is a
the
really,
feelings you had
yeah.
then and later on.
Thank
There
you.
is a
Thank you.
really heart-rending story in this book. Thank you for that question.
Yes.
You're asking about Grandpa. There is a really, really heartfelt and meaningful story in this book about when Grandpa met you after school one day,
Yeah.
and I'm sure I want you to tell that story.
Oh, really?
And how it really kind of has resonated so long, and as the, you know,
Well,
it became music.
It did. It was inspiration for Grandpa's song. I was really embarrassed. Linda and I were very embarrassed about being Tongan, you know, because we got picked on. So it was an apology to our grandfather, because I was really horrible to him when he picked me up from school. I didn't want to acknowledge him. I was terrible, and it was, even today it still upsets me that I treated him so badly. And we wrote Grandpa's song to apologise to our parents for that.
Because had he turned up in
Yes.
traditional dress?
Yes.
And he was outside your school?
Yes.
And you just brushed him and went,
Yes.
because you were embarrassed to be with him.
Yeah. You know.
And so this is where this genesis of this beautiful song comes
Thank
from.
you.
Yeah. Thank
Lovely
you.
story.
Thank you.
And you've done your grandpa proud, by the way.
Thank you.
Just wondering, Vika and Linda, about acoustic. Your album on 2000, live and acoustic, is my favourite.
Thank you.
And you finished with a song by Paul Kelly called If I Could Start Today Again. I'm just wondering, are you having any more acoustic little sessions? Because that is a wonderful album.
Thank you. We haven't got plans for that. We're releasing a Christmas album on Friday, so that's
Really?
Yep.
A Christmas album?
Christmas album. Yeah.
Come on,
so
what's
called,
on it?
It's called Gee Whiz, It's Christmas, and it's a kind of record.
6 white boomers.
No,
we
no,
white boomers.
no.
On the Australian runs.
No, we didn't do
But I
that.
think next.
How about Orana to Christmas?
No.
What else?
No,
None of them?
there's no shit
It's
songs.
not an Aussie Christmas album.
Oh,
No.
We'll remember you next time when you're going to put your song selection in. No, that's the next project we're doing. But thank you. We'll keep that in mind. It's a good thing to do. Yeah.
We actually like it when it's stripped back. We like playing with just like a guitar player or piano player, because I think, you know, we enjoy all sorts of ways that we, you know, get music across. But it's good when it's sort of stripped back because of the singing. You know, you
can hear it.
You can hear it. You can hear what we're doing. We enjoy it.
Can I ask a question here? Tell us about the kids. What are the girls up to?
My daughter's 25. She's a nurse.
My daughter's 24. She's studying law, and my 17-year-old is still at school.
A nurse and a lawyer. You've won the lottery. Quite frankly.
You reckon?
And you live in Melbourne these days?
We both live in inner city Melbourne, about a kilometre apart.
Yeah.
We used to live in the same street, and then I got divorced and sold my house. So I had to move further away, but we're very close.
Do we have any other questions before we let the girls go? One over here.
Just a very quick one. Do you have any books on sale tonight?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
they'll be up.
Up there.
Definitely.
Down the end there.
And we'll be signing them.
And signing.
Yes.
That's right. And, okay, who's the, okay, I just want to ask,
Is that a trick question?
who's the most obnoxious celebrity that you've ever
Oh.
You don't fancy that. Who's the best route that you know?
My husband.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please thank our wonderful, gorgeous,
Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
gorgeous Linda and Vika
Thank you.
Bull, OAM, if you don't mind.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Wendy.
And they'll went right down there to sign your books and meetings. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks a
We
lot.
had a lovely night, and thank you.
That was fun.
That was great fun.
Great.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.